Welcome to the Armani Talks YouTube channel. I'm your host, Armani Talks. In this channel, we are discussing communication skills such as public speaking, social skills, storytelling, and much more. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button right on below. In this episode, we are entering the world of social dynamics to discuss a concept known as dark charisma. Before I talk about the dark parts of charisma, I want to share a story with you, which is going to bring this concept to life. A couple of years back, I was working in a technology company in Tampa. Most of my coworkers were in Chicago. I was what you call a remote position. This was good and bad. It was good because I didn't have anyone to answer to. I could come in whenever I wanted. I could leave whenever I wanted. This was good. The tough part was that I didn't have a team to share and build a camaraderie with, because the only time I could interact with them was on the phone or through chat. As some time went on by, my Tampa company hired what we call a floor supervisor. Let's call him Timothy. And Timothy was one of those individuals who would always come to my desk just to make sure everything was going well. Something about Timothy, for some strange reason, felt wrong. I didn't know exactly why, but something about him just didn't fit right with me. And to give you an example of this, for the most part, I was extremely good with maintaining eye contact with people. Normally when I'm talking to someone, I'm able to gaze into their eyes without it being awkward. But for Timothy, every single time I tried to look into his eyes, there was this weird feeling internally, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. Why is it that I'm able to do great eye contact with all these other people, but with Timothy, something feels wrong? In the initial stages, I just blamed myself. I was like, you probably aren't too comfortable with eye contact with everyone. Okay, so this is the issue. Well, as some more time went on by, Timothy starts coming to my desk and he starts asking me weird questions. He starts asking me, Armani, how would you recommend that we improve this floor? Like, what suggestions do you have? In my mind, I'm thinking, nothing, man. Everything is going well for me. This is the perfect situation for me, working in this remote position. So I let Timothy know, all is good here, bro. You could go to the next cubicle. But he keeps staying with me. He's asking me, no, Armani, come on, give me something. A few reasons or ways that this floor could improve. Come on, you seem like a creative guy. Now, he's pushing me to think of certain feedback for this floor. So I'm like, maybe you guys could throw more events. I don't know, something like that to build a better bond with everyone. Timothy takes out his notepad and pencil, writes it down. What else? And he keeps prying me, trying to get me to think of more feedback for this floor. As 2 days goes on by, my Chicago manager calls me and he's like, Armani, is everything okay? I was like, yeah, everything's okay. Why? What's up? He's like, your Tampa floor manager, Timothy, just called me and he said, you've been complaining nonstop about recent work conditions. I just wanted to make sure everything is going well with you. I wasn't complaining. This dude kept bringing up and asking me for feedback, and he's saying that I'm complaining to my manager. Man, I was livid. And if you understand basic psychology, you got to understand something. I didn't enter that call with my manager in equal status. He perceived me in a completely lower status because in his mind, I had been talking bad about the company. So basically in that interaction, me defending myself is me crawling out of that hole that his perception map had assigned for me. Bro, I was so freaking pissed. And around that time, it started to make a little bit more sense why the eye contact was such an issue with Timothy. Because even though Timothy seemed like a cool person, seemed like a charismatic person, his intentions were bad. He's one of those dudes that wants something to do. Because as time went on by, I found out that the floor manager doesn't do much. And he was trying to stir up drama to create problems, to make it seem like he was resolving problems. And I just unfortunately fell into that mix. Timothy taught me two valuable lessons. The first valuable lesson is that, yes, dark charisma does exist. And the second valuable lesson was that the portal to spotting dark charisma is intuition. And those are going to be the two main topics we're talking about in this episode. Charisma sometimes gets a bad rep. Some people are like, I feel like charismatic people are manipulative. And this concern reminds me a lot of Alfred Nobel, the Swedish chemist who is known for the Nobel Peace Prize. But what many don't know about him is that he's also the creator of the dynamite. And when he created the dynamite, he had a lot of good intentions for it. Unfortunately, a lot of bad people got hold of the dynamite, started to cause a lot of deaths, and those deaths started to be associated with the dynamite, and that dynamite was associated with Alfred Nobel. Alfred Nobel had all the best intentions in the world, and in a lot of parts of the world, the dynamite is being used for good. But unfortunately, in a lot of parts of the world, the dynamite is being used for destruction. Who's right, who's wrong, depends on the context. Likewise, with charisma, it's what I call the dynamite of the social skills world. It's just a bunch of moves that you can do, right? There's a bunch of different moves of presence, of tonality, of conversation material, all moves. However, what separates dark charisma from pure charisma is the importance placed on the moves. Someone with dark charisma places a lot of focus on the moves in itself and undermines the entity that is using those moves. Someone with pure charisma focuses on the entity first, and that's the most important, where the moves are then seen as a tool to amplify this entity further. This is a big fancy way of saying that this one has good character and the moves are simply amplifying that good character, while this one has bad character and the moves are simply being used as what I call business transactions. The tough part of the social world is that a lot of people who mean well often can lack social skills, and a lot of people who don't mean well often have social skills. So dark charisma is something that is spotted through intuition. It's extremely difficult to intellectually break everything down. It's a burst of intuition that comes in you. And anytime intuition is involved, there's never a 100% success rate. On the flip side, with intuition, you just keep getting better and better with time. What happened with me in terms of that interaction with Timothy was my intuition was speaking to me. And it speaks to you through different vehicles. And in this case, the vehicle was through eye contact. Logically, I knew that eye contact is not an issue for me. And this individual is causing me a lot of problems with eye contact. What gives? Okay? So for me, in that context, it was my intuition trying to say, yo, something about this dude, I don't know, man, something doesn't feel right. Now, to access this portal of intuition requires a whole lot of preliminary efforts. If I'm someone who never engages in social interactions, then for me, I don't have that much data from past experiences to be able to spot that this person, something is going wrong. So to access intuition requires a lot of work beforehand. It requires engaging in the act, engaging multiple times through consistency, building a database full of experiences. And once you have those, and you've shown good judgment, good critical thinking skills, the hardest part is now needed. What separates intellect from intuition? Intellect you could just do with the head, but with intuition, you need assistance from the intelligence of the heart. No way around that. And to engage the intelligence of the heart, we need to work on our arrogance. That's one of the things I've learned throughout my journey in the social skills, communication skills world. In order to access intuition and be consistently reading your intuition correctly, something that other people can't read for you, only you can read, you need to tame your arrogance. Some people will say, well, arrogance is good for you, man. People who are arrogant, people who have an ego, get things done. But you want to evaluate where they're giving you this advice from. If this is a person that weighs way more importance into the world of critical thinking than intuition, they're going to give you that advice. If someone is telling you intuition matters way more than critical thinking, they're going to tell you, kill the ego, kill the ego. But if someone's telling you that different situations require different contexts, then this is a person that you want to listen to. Because critical thinking is not the enemy. Intuition is not the enemy. And understanding this allows us to understand that dark charisma is a force out there. And we're not going to just engage with it, understand it through intellectual faculties alone. We have to engage the intuition. And the intuition can only be engaged if you start lowering your arrogance. And the beauty is, throughout this journey, I told you you have to put in a lot of preliminary efforts in order to access intuition. Oftentimes, in interacting in a lot of those preliminary efforts, your arrogance is being tamed because you're failing a lot as you're accumulating those experiences. And as you're failing a lot, you would think this is bad. However, your perspective is opening up more. You start to understand the more that I know, the less that I know, which is a good problem. It leads to the advancing mindset. And from there, the arrogance is starting to dissipate. It's not as though you're a pushover. You just understand the bigger picture. And that's when the heart intelligence becomes unlocked. So just understand this. In the social skills world, it's not charisma that's the problem. It's how charisma is being used that's the problem. There is pure charisma. There are pure people who lack charisma. There is dark charisma. There are people who don't mean well that know the moves of charisma. Outside, they look almost identical. So critical thinking is not going to do it solely. You need to engage intuition, and intuition is simply going to be engaged by putting in a lot of preliminary efforts in regards to a certain task. Plus, during these efforts, the arrogance needs to be mitigated in order to access the intelligence of the heart, which can amplify your ability to spot when something is going wrong. This is a world of social skills, and it's just a matter of keeping it real. Understand that Alfred Nobels in this world do exist, and his creations will be used for good and for bad. But it's all a game of perspective. Which side are you identifying with? How much are you doing your best to tame that arrogance? Cultivate a learning attitude. And from there, intuition is going to turn from whispers to screams. If you enjoyed today's episode and learned a thing or two, be sure to drop that like for me right on below, and you share this video on your social media of choice. Thank you for joining the Armani Talks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you on the next episode.